There's a number of ways of getting feedback about the sorts of teaching that is being put in place in a classroom context. Behaviours to do with monitoring student progress and making sure that the focus that the principal thinks is important is really protected. I mentioned earlier today, if literacy is important, then should it have more time in a staff meeting than where to put the rubbish bin? Maintaining high visibility in terms of the focus or the initiative that is being there. So really the principal or the leadership team in positive ways keeping the project, the literacy project, on the horizon, really keeping it so that people are seeing it. Providing incentives for teachers, and what we know in a school, incentives can be provided in a range of ways. So the sorts of principal behaviours that were associated with positive changes in teaching practice were at least some of those. Now, how has principal behaviour actually influenced teaching practice? Principals who modelled how to interrogate teaching, how to question the teaching you put in place, it actually led to teachers critiquing their own practice, asking questions, principals asking questions of teachers about why they're going to teach a particular topic in a particular way, how they'll go about helping the students develop it, led to the teachers considering alternatives. Principals who encouraged risk-taking, and we made a big deal earlier today about the importance of trust and respect when one is wanting to work in a professional learning group, how that can actually improve collegiate teamwork. Asking teachers to justify their practice. So me going into a Year 7 science class and the principal at morning tea time, before I go in, having a dialogue with me about how I might develop a topic. Now, I mightn't want to talk about it over morning tea time, but it may be that the principal makes a point of having a dialogue with me in one of my spares about how I would be teaching the science topic, and then really in a supportive way, wanting me to justify why I was going to do particular things. And that actually leads to innovation, improvement in teaching. Two people who've done a lot of research in how teachers see their principals' leadership styles and how they influence their teaching were done by Blaze and Blaze. And if anyone's interested, I can make available the articles that they've written along these lines. And their research showed that there were two key themes that come through what effective principals do in terms of leading the literacy improvement. And one is the ways in which the leaders talk with teachers to actually promote reflection in a range of ways, and how the principals actually promote professional growth. And professional growth isn't going to a PD activity. Now, in terms of the dialogue that the principals were supporting, there were 5 types of dialogue that the effective principals used regularly. They made suggestions that were focused on particular issues in the teacher's practice at that time. So the suggestions were purposeful, they were appropriate, and they were non-threatening. So they were focused on, usually on the teacher having the students learn more effectively. They were relevant to that specific situation, and they were non-threatening. The second key type of dialogue, they gave feedback that was focused on things they observed in the teacher's classroom. And the feedback could have been positive, it might have been negative. I would be really pushing there that the feedback be focusing on student learning, not on teaching behaviours. We talked about that earlier today. That we really make the feedback targeting children who had difficulty learning a particular idea or learning in a particular way. The third type of dialogue was where the principal actually modelled or demonstrated teaching techniques in classrooms, where the leadership team were actually able to show the teachers alternative ways of teaching. The fourth was where the school principal used inquiry and asked teachers for advice about particular teaching procedures. And fifthly, where the principal gave positive feedback for specific instances that occurred in the classroom. This research was done with thousands of teachers across schools in the US. The sorts of suggestions, and I'm now going to unpack each of those types of dialogue. This is all in your notes, isn't it? Well, it is. Page 21. Last week's page 21. The reason why I'm going through, there are two or three reasons why I'm doing this. One is for you to be aware of what the research says about what people who have been judged to be effective school leaders actually do to positively influence improved teaching. I'm going through this for a secondary reason as well, though, and that is so you can get an idea of the sorts of behaviours that if you were to be in this role as a literacy leader, how might you be a leader of literacy teaching, and what were the things that you could do, not from a school principal level, but from a literacy leader level, that your colleagues might really value. As we go through each one of these, I think it would be useful to actually imagine what these would look like. So when you see the bold word here, listen, what is the principal actually doing when they're listening? And what are they not doing? So the teachers mentioned that the principals would be prepared to listen. Now, I think we would all define listening as taking on board what we're hearing and showing the listener that we are respecting and trusting what they're saying, and that we're taking it apart, we're questioning it, we're saying, no, how, what did you do? How did that happen? That's interesting. All the feedback we would show when we were really genuinely listening, not when someone starts to tell us something and we leap in very quickly and say, okay, this is what you should be doing. Let's try